What is up, everyone? I'm going to show you guys my protein pancake recipe that I made. This is my own after doing it and screwing up a bunch of times and figuring out what I like. So this is protein oat pancakes. Now I will say, for context, guys, I'm currently not in Canada, and I'm actually not currently in the USA either. I am currently in northern Colombia. So the types of products I can get here versus northern Colombia aren't going to be the same. So obviously I'm not going to be able to say, hey, go get this, go get this, go get this. But I will try to do my best when I'm describing this stuff. So what you guys are going to need for these protein pancakes, obviously you're going to need some protein powder. I have a vanilla whey isolate. Guys, I tried chocolate in the protein pancakes. It was nasty and heinous. If you want to try that, that's cool, but vanilla is the king. So I have a vanilla whey isolate. I do have no sugar added oat milk. You can use almond milk. Oat milk and almond milk and things like that are going to be lower calorie, which is why I picked it. But if you were in the United States and Canada, you have Fairlife milk. So a 0% Fairlife milk will really jack up the amount of protein in these pancakes without even having to put a lot of protein powder in there. I almost said peanut butter. No. Then we have Greek yogurt. Greek yogurt is great because it gives you a little blast of protein as well, but Greek yogurt gives it the texture. I'm going to explain why this is so key in a second. Then we have 2 eggs. I'm going to do 1 whole and 1 whites. Better texture, my personal preference. This here is the oat flour. So it's oat flour, just basically pulverized oats, but oat flour is so cheap here in Colombia. It's like, this bag was like 60 cents Canadian for this 200-gram bag. It's nothing. And then from there, we have the stuff that kind of holds it together. You can also use other flours and stuff, like I have quinoa flour as well. So I'm actually gonna put a little bit of quinoa flour in with the oat flour, but I will tell you guys here, quinoa flour kind of tastes like dirt, just like quinoa does. But it has slightly better nutrients. On that note, other things that we want in here that are necessary. Some people say, oh, we want to use a baking powder. Other people say we want to use baking soda. I'm not going to lie to you guys. When I use baking soda, they just turn out better, okay? They just turn out better when I use baking soda as a baking powder. I know this has sodium, but it just, baking powder works out, doesn't seem to do, I think baking powder is better for when you're putting things in the oven. And then we have a couple necessities, which is artificial sweetener of choice. I'm using stevia, liquid stevia, vanilla extract, which is really key. We're going to use just a teaspoon of vanilla extract in there. Don't want too much or else it starts to taste really bitter. And then we have some salt, and this is cinnamon. And I'm actually not going to use cinnamon in mine because I have a sensitivity to cinnamon, believe it or not, but cinnamon is bomb. Now, one thing I almost always have here as well, guys, are bananas. And what I like to do in this exact recipe is take a half of a banana and smush it up with a fork and mix it up really well till it's like basically a puree, and then toss that and mix this in here. But we're out of bananas, so I'm not going to be doing that today. So I'm going to show you guys in the bowls what we do. Actually, before I show you guys what to put in the bowls, I want to be clear here that I have 2 different bowls. This is because you want your dry ingredients in one bowl and you want your wet ingredients in the other bowl. Mix them separately before you add the wet to the dry right before you cook it. And that's what I recommend. Don't ask me why. They just turn out better, they're fluffier, they have a better texture, they just taste better. So yeah, dry in one bowl, wet in the other bowl. Before you cook it, mix the wet into the dry, mix it somewhat well, about 70–80%, and then toss that sucker into the pan. All right, guys, as always, we want to use a food scale. And if you guys are not using a food scale and you're trying to lose weight, you're trying to build muscle, trying to be healthier, a food scale is going to help you so freaking much. If you're not using it, you need one. They're not expensive. This was like 20 bucks. But I recommend ones like this that have batteries, not ones that have a cable you have to plug in. So you put your dish on there, your bowl, press the tare button to bring it back to 0, okay? What we're gonna do first is we're gonna measure the dry ingredients. And I'm gonna try to, I'm leaning over this. I'm trying to lean over this upside down, but that's okay, because I want you guys to be able to read this. So what I'm putting here is 50 grams of oat flour. So 45, 50 grams. Perfect. Then, this is not necessary, by the way. I'm also adding roughly 10 grams, roughly 10 grams. That was a little bit faster than I wanted. Roughly 10 grams of quinoa flour. Okay, like I told you, quinoa flour, guys, I don't recommend it overall, but I bought it, so I'm gonna use it piece by piece. Then I'm gonna put a tiny little bit of baking powder, but ultimately what I'm using the most here is some baking soda. We want about a teaspoon, something like that, okay? Baking soda. Then, this is necessary, a good sized pinch of salt. I'm serious, guys, don't slack on that. Now, if you be putting in cinnamon, you put cinnamon right now. I'm not putting cinnamon in this one today. So there is the dry ingredients. And then what we want to do, my friends, is we want to mix up all the dry ingredients together just a little bit first. Boom, like that. I forgot the most important dry ingredient that there is. So tear that scale, put the bowl back on, and we need to put our protein powder. We can't make protein pancakes without the freaking protein powder. So what I'm doing is I'm putting a half a scoop of this, which is about 20 grams of protein. Yeah, this protein powder is weird. I don't know why the scoop is so big. It's not the purest, but it's the best one I could find here, and it is an isolate. So I'm using a half a scoop, which is 26 grams of protein powder, and I'm gonna mix that in. Okay, so I'm using a half a scoop. You guys were like, well, why, John, why don't you use a full scoop and get more protein? I'm gonna be honest with you guys. It takes the texture to shit. So if you want really hard, dense, weird tasting pancakes, then yeah, put a full scoop. But I just want that 20 grams, and we're gonna get most of the protein, the rest of the protein, from the eggs and from the Greek yogurt. Okay, now time for the wet ingredients, my friends. Let's see if I can't screw this up for camera. 1 whole egg, boom, and 1 egg whites. And sorry guys, there are no such thing as liquid egg whites here in northern Colombia. So I'm gonna do it the old fashioned way, where we toss that sucker back and forth and hopefully we get it out. This one did not cooperate fully with me. There we go. All right, stevia, boop, boop. Maybe a little more. I usually put in like about a tablespoon of stevia, a teaspoon of vanilla extract. You don't want to overdose on vanilla extract, maybe about that. Okay, then normally it's Greek yogurt. I recommend 0% fat, but this one does not have 0% fat. This is natural, it's got 0 added sugar, but it does have 5.9 grams of fat. So this is a higher fat Greek yogurt, but for calories, I recommend using a 0%. So what we want is about a 1/4 cup. I'm just gonna estimate this here, but I'm gonna put the macros on the screen for a 1/4 cup. Boom, Greek yogurt in there. Move that from the scale. It's gonna look really gross, and you'd have banana in this too, like, right? You wanna mix this up. Sometimes I'll use a fork. It looks gross, but trust me, once this is all together, my friends, it is incredible. Boom. Just like that. So I usually recommend for this, to keep the calories low, to use a spray olive or a spray, my favorite, a spray avocado oil. But neither of those things you can get here in Northern Colombia, so I just actually have an avocado oil. And believe it or not, this is the first time here that this product became available. It's brand new product. I bought it at a store called D1 or De Uno. And yeah, so unfortunately don't have the spray or I'd be using it. But if you don't have spray, you can use an oil like this. But what I recommend is measure a teaspoon maximum. So I'm gonna measure this teaspoon, teaspoon of oil in the pan, pretty easy. Now this is the part where we get fun. we get to mix the sweetener, vanilla, yogurt, egg, and banana, if you have that, into the dry mix. Why didn't you do that before, John? That's stupid. Just trust me, it's better texture. Just way better texture. And then once you get this together, you want to mix this till it's about 80% mixed. Not perfect. I'm telling you guys that. If you over mix it, the texture just becomes a sponge. So mix it about 80% well. Don't ask me, ask my grandma. I don't know. This is just the way things are. Mix that up. And then for you guys that are like, well, what the heck is that, the oat milk? What are you doing with that oat milk? Well, the oat milk, guys, is if you mix it and for whatever reason your protein powder or the things you're using make it really thick and viscous, that can happen. It's happened to me a couple times. So what you do is you just take your oat milk or your Fairlife milk or whatever, you chuck a little bit of that in there. I usually would recommend weighing it if you're really trying to lose weight or something like that. Then again, if you're really trying to lose weight, you're probably not going to be going too hard on protein pancakes. They're more of a muscle gain type food because I'm trying to gain muscle right now. So I put that in there, and virtually what you want here, guys, is you want like that's still maybe a little bit thick. I could probably stand to put a tiny bit more of that in there, but ultimately that's me being nitpicky. So I'm going to put a little bit of, you want it to be like not runny, but it should kind of roll off the spoon really good. Check this out, guys. This is going to be perfect. That's probably too well mixed. Look at that. That's what we want. That's what we want. Look at that. That's what we want. And then we take that sucker and we put her in the pan because that oil is starting to get hot. Now, what I would usually recommend is using that much oil for the entire batch of this. But once again, I'm in an Airbnb in Colombia and we don't have our own pans. So I got to work with this shitty little pan. Just how it is. So there we go. Look at that. So this amount of pancake mix will make 6 kind of small pancakes from my standard, or 4 decent sized pancakes, or as I do it, 2 big ass pancakes. Now you might be like, well, what do you do for sauces? Sugar-free maple syrup. This is a brand from Colombia. By the way, guys, if any of you happen to be watching this from Colombia or plan to go to Colombia, all of these products can be found at Olympica, Carulla, the grocery stores here, okay, guys? Including the protein powder I bought. It's from the grocery store here. But this is, make sure I'm not burning my pancake. Keep it on low heat, low to mid. But this is a sugar-free maple syrup. There's no point to do high protein pancakes with healthier ingredients to get the calories low and then slap a ton of maple syrup or high sugar syrup on the top of it. Doesn't make sense. 0 calorie syrup, guys. That's what we want. You could go syrup free, but I'm going to go recommend 0 calorie syrup. All right, here's the finished product, guys. They're a little bronzed, so I don't recommend using 2 big ass pancakes from this recipe in a tiny little egg pan. I recommend a bigger pan or a skillet, but I digress. They are huge. They weigh a lot. I'm going to put all the macros and the calories on the screen right now so you guys know protein, carbs, fats, overall calories for these exact pancakes. And they might not be the best macros out of every protein pancake that you've ever had, but they actually taste like pancakes, unlike a lot of the other protein pancakes that are literally like egg whites and rolled oats. Like, that doesn't taste like a freaking pancake. This tastes like pancakes. Is it exactly like a fatty buttermilk pancake with 0 protein? No, but it still tastes like a pancake. Hope you guys enjoyed this. If you enjoyed this, hit that sub button and drop a comment down below if you have any questions about the ingredients I put in this, or if you feel like you need to make any sort of changes to this recipe. See you guys. Mm-hmm.